The trail wasn't supposed to be scary. You'd walked it dozens of times. Every Saturday morning, same route, same trees, same muddy bend near the creek where the blackbirds always gathered. You knew this path the way you knew your own hallway in the dark, by feel, by memory, by the comfortable certainty that nothing out here could surprise you. That was before you heard her voice. It came from somewhere off the trail, past the tree line where the light got thin and the undergrowth swallowed everything whole. Just your name. Soft, almost gentle. You stopped walking. The blackbirds were gone. Her name was Mara. You'd known her since you were 9 years old. She used to call your name exactly like that, trailing off at the end like a question, like she was never quite sure you'd answer. You hadn't spoken to Mara in almost 3 years. Not since she moved away, or so everyone said. Not since the messages stopped and her number went dead and her family stopped coming to church on Sundays. But that was her voice. You were certain of it. You took one step off the trail, then another. The trees closed in behind you almost immediately, the way trees do in old forests. Like they're breathing, like they shift when you're not watching. The light changed, the air changed. It got colder and quieter in the same instant, and the only sound was the soft crunch of dead leaves under your boots. Then her voice again, closer this time. Over here. You told yourself it made sense. She'd come back. She was hiking, same as you, and she'd recognized you first and called out. Simple, logical, human. But something small nagged at the edge of your thoughts. Something you couldn't name yet. The voice had no echo. You noticed it now. Out here in this hollow between the hills, sound bounced oddly. Your own footsteps came back to you a half-second late. The distant crack of a branch somewhere to the north returned as a faint reply. Everything echoed. Except her voice. Her voice landed flat, close and immediate and sourceless, like it was being generated right beside your ear rather than called out from somewhere ahead. You stopped again. "Don't stop," the voice said. You started walking again before you'd made the decision to. 15 minutes in, you should have found her. The woods here weren't that thick. You could see 30, 40 feet in most directions. Dark trunks and pale undergrowth, and the occasional grey boulder wearing a coat of moss. There was nowhere to hide. Not really. Anyone standing in these woods, you'd see them. You couldn't see her, but you could hear her. She was talking now, a low, continuous murmur just ahead. The words almost but not quite intelligible, like a conversation heard through a wall. Sometimes she laughed, that specific laugh you remembered, the quiet one she used when something caught her genuinely off guard. Sometimes she said your name again, the same way, trailing, questioning. You started noticing the trees, not all at once, gradually. The way you notice something wrong in a photograph only after staring at it for a few seconds. The bark on the trees here was marked. Long vertical scars, evenly spaced, running from about knee-height to well above your head. Not claw marks, too deliberate for that. Too regular. They looked almost like tallies. You counted one set, 7 marks. You counted another, 7 marks, another, 7. You looked around. Every tree within sight bore the same marks. Every single one. The voice said your name again, and somehow you kept walking. Your phone buzzed. You nearly dropped it. You'd forgotten you had it. Forgotten there was a world outside these trees, other people, signal. You looked at the screen. A photo, sent from an unknown number. You almost didn't open it. Some instinct, some animal part of your brain screamed at you to put the phone away and turn around and walk, run, back to the trail. back to the muddy bend and the blackbirds and the ordinary Saturday morning you'd left behind. You opened it. It was a photo of these woods, this exact stretch of forest taken from somewhere behind you. You could tell by the trees, by a particular grey boulder you'd passed minutes ago, half visible at the photo's edge. There was a figure in the photo, standing between two marked trees, perfectly still, not facing the camera, facing away toward where you were standing right now. The figure was tall, dressed in something dark, and its proportions were slightly wrong in a way that took you a long moment to identify. The arms were too long, not dramatically, not monstrously, just enough that when you really looked at where the hands fell against the figure's sides, something in your stomach turned cold. The photo had a timestamp. It had been taken 4 minutes ago. You turned around. Nothing behind you. Just trees. Just the marks on the bark. Just silence so complete you could hear your own pulse. You started walking back the way you came. Faster now. Not running. You told yourself you weren't going to run, but moving with a focused urgency that made your breath come short. The voice called your name. But it was different now. Before, it had sounded like Mara. Warm, familiar, slightly distant. Now it sounded like someone doing an impression of Mara, like something that had heard her voice once and was recreating it from memory, getting most of it right but missing the human quality underneath, the breath behind it, the weight of a real person. "Why are you leaving?" it said. And then, in a voice that wasn't Mara's at all, lower, flatter, wrong in a way that made your vision blur at the edges. "You haven't found her yet." You ran. You found the trail. You didn't stop. You ran the full mile back to the parking lot, to your car, to the locked doors and the engine and the radio playing something ordinary and stupid that you were so grateful for you nearly cried. You sat there for a long time. The sun was still up. Families were pulling into the parking lot, unloading children and dogs and picnic bags. Normal life continuing. You drove home. You didn't tell anyone. What would you say? That night you did what you should never have done. You looked her up. Mara hadn't moved away. Mara had gone missing. 3 years ago, on a Saturday morning, she'd gone for a walk on the same trail you walked every week. Her car was found in the parking lot. Her phone was found half a mile into the woods, screen cracked, sitting in the mud near a cluster of marked trees. She was never found. The case was still open. The last person to see her was a hiker who reported hearing a voice calling from somewhere off the trail. Familiar, they said, almost gentle. They'd followed it for a few minutes before turning back. They said the voice kept calling behind them the whole way to the parking lot. You read that last line 3 times. You put your phone down. You sat in the quiet of your house, in the ordinary lamplight of your living room, and you tried to make sense of what you knew. Whatever was in those woods, it had been there for at least 3 years. It had Mara's voice, because it had found Mara. Or because it had been Mara long enough to learn every detail, every inflection, every trailing question at the end of a name. And it had wanted you to keep walking. You thought about the photograph, the figure between the marked trees, the timestamp. You thought about the tallies on the bark. You thought about how it said, "You haven't found her yet." Past tense would have been, "You won't find her." Future tense would have been, "She isn't there." But it said yet. Like finding her was still possible. Like she was still out there, somewhere deeper in, past the marked trees and the flat, dead silence. Like something wanted you to go back and look. Your phone buzzed, unknown number. You stared at the notification for a long time before you turned the phone face down and sat very still in your ordinary living room, in your ordinary house, on what had started as an ordinary Saturday. Outside, somewhere in the distance, past the neighborhood and the roads and the dark tree line at the edge of town, something was moving through the woods. And it was saying your name, the same way Mara used to, trailing off, like a question, like it already knew you'd answer.